Upwork, Fiverr, freelancer.com, the gig economy, most used platforms. The platforms that were supposed to be the future of independent work, the ones that promised you could build a career on your skills without an employer, without a boss, without being trapped in an office. AI just basically ate them, devoured them. Not all of them, but enough that the gig economy you thought you understood has split into two different worlds. And the one you're in matters enormously. The casualties arrived in a specific order, and the order tells you something important. Yeah. I've been in and out of the gig economy on both sides of having my own gigs as well as hiring them all the time, and a lot of mixed reviews on that. And I'll cover more on this in a minute. The casualties arrived in a specific order, and the order tells you something important. So, transcription work on major platforms is down 72%. Obviously, transcription AI kind of does that, right? I remember that was a big deal on the gig economy. I mean, even when it first came out, writing articles, horribly written or articles were in huge demand just because people hate to write. Even articles that weren't written that well were in huge demand. Data entry down 67%, template writing down 54%, simple design and logo concepts down 38%. And expect these numbers to just keep going. These are not gradual declines. They are near complete eliminations of entire categories. Entire categories just in just like 2 years. The tasks that used to pay $30 to $100 per gig can now be completed by AI in seconds for essentially nothing. And I use AI for almost everything that was just described here, almost on a daily basis. Writing and copywriting postings overall are down 30 to 32% year on year. I'm surprised it's not more than that, because writing and maybe copywriting is the one thing that still a human expert can do better, but it's changing quick. Based on analysis over 2 million Upwork projects, based on analysis of over 2 million Upwork projects, so they looked at that. Software development gigs down 21%, graphic design down 17%. Across the board, freelance rates have been cut by roughly 30% as AI competition drives prices toward the floor. The pattern: whatever AI could replicate at sufficient quality for a client who is primarily buying the output, not the relationship, not the judgment, not the expertise, that work disappeared first and fastest. Yeah, so I remember when Upwork, it used to be called Odesk, came out, and it was really cool because you could go on there and you could get stuff done so much cheaper than it was ever possible. But then came the third world country invasion of people claiming they could do stuff, and I don't know, they would just copy and paste somebody else's profile, and then it was a nightmare trying to work with a lot of these guys from India and stuff, because what happened to a lot of these gig economy, these gig platforms, is guys would try to just convince you to pay them $50, and then they would string you on. And back then in countries, $50, it was worth it for them to create an entire platform, still take $50 from you, never do the work right, and then you just say, screw it, forget it, right? And then they would just do that again over and over and over. It was kind of a pain in the ass. So you had to be very careful, and then they had ratings, and then you had to look at people's ratings, and then there was ways to fake that. And however, eventually it did work, and the platforms got better at kind of fine-tuning, and they started featuring certain gigs, or you would become rated level 2, level 3, and then you kind of knew. But it wasn't as easy as just getting on there, You had to sift through a lot of garbage. But, it was an industry that was growing like crazy. I remember the very first gig I did was just for fun. I saw Fiverr came on, and back then everything was $5. They didn't even allow, now it says Fiverr.com, but it's basically just a freelancer platform, and and you can charge pretty much any price you want. They just recommend you have a $5 gig that you upsell, but anyways, I did a little funny thing where I had my son when he was 7, 8 years old catch a wave, whitewater, and say your message. And we just were just having fun with it. We're just, oh, look at this new thing. Let's try something out. Let's think of something. And then oh, why don't we do this, like, say your message, happy birthday or congratulations. And we did it, and we got featured on the front page. I guess they liked it, thought it was cute. And it went viral. And my son started getting more and more, and he was only 8 years old, so I'd go and film him. And then it started to become a hassle because he couldn't remember his lines, and people started asking for more and more. And then we had to keep changing, like, oh, okay, only 10 words per gig. And then it was like only 7 words per gig. And then it was, if you want, more than 7 words, you need to pay more. And then it went crazy. And next thing you know, it was like we were getting a job every 3 days, and then it was every day, then 2 jobs a day, and then it was like 30 jobs a day. And then it was just like, okay, my son's gonna have a nervous breakdown. He was like stressing out, and it wasn't even fun anymore. So we cut the gig. But before we cut the gig, he made close to $2,000. Crazy, right? And we used that to buy a bunch of his camera gear and stuff, and he became a pretty known vlogger for his era. He's now 24 years old. But so that means that was almost 20 years ago. So if he was 8, that means that was like 12 years ago. Yeah, anyways, that was my experience. And then I started, using it. I started using it for jobs, for doing like freelance work, for doing, web design, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, that's my experience. Oh, and then eventually I moved to hiring people from the Philippines, because then it turned out that back then, if you go back 10 years ago, people from the Philippines were the best because they spoke the best English, they understood what you wanted, and they were cheap and easy to work with. And there was a lot of support for that in the Philippines. You could find them and cut out the middleman, which is these platforms. Because these platforms take anywhere from 10, 15, 20%, so on and so forth. And they don't even really protect you. So it what it turned into, really? It turned into like hiring, just like any job, right? The hardest part is hiring the right people. The hardest part with the gig economy is just finding really good freelancers that actually could do what they said they could do. And yeah, so let's continue, see what else we got here. So behind the percentages are real people and real incomes. One copywriter, documented by blood in the machine, went from 600,000 a year with a team of 8 people to under 10,000 in 2025. Wow. Crazy, right? It's just people are just like, don't need you anymore. A medical writer went from near full-time work to 4 or 5 hours a month. Medical writers used to get paid a lot, especially medical transcribers. The faster you could transcribe and write, the more money, was based. I remember a guy that he would do medical transcriptions, and he was so fast that it sounded like you were just throwing rice at a keyboard. And he made a lot of money because his skill was amazing. Probably doesn't have a job anymore. These are not people who failed to see it coming. They saw it. They just couldn't move fast enough, and the market moved faster than any reasonable person was prepared for. The platform's response to disruption they helped create is a specific kind of corporate dark comedy. Upwork launched an AI service hub and a GPT-4 powered assistant to help freelancers work more efficiently. Fiverr launched I didn't know this, because literally about a year ago, I'm going to say 2 years ago, I completely stopped using freelancers, except for the ones that I had, and then I eventually let them all go about, I'm going to say 8 months ago. At one point, I was working with 15 freelancers, virtual assistants. Where was I? Yeah, Fiverr launched a program where freelancers can train an AI model on their own work. Really? So the AI can do the jobs for them at scale. Let that sentence settle. Fiverr's solution to AI replacing freelancers is to help the freelancers become the people who train the AI that replace them. Yeah, that's pretty funny. It is somehow both cynical and the correct strategic advice simultaneously. It's kind of like search engines don't want to get left out, like Google, so they don't want to get left out of the AI revolution, so they're now answering everybody's questions with an AI in the top left. You guys have seen that. And what happens is nobody clicks anymore. Most of the answers, I read it's about 65% of searches now just get answered in that top left. So nobody has to click on a website or click on a link anywhere anymore. So they're trying to make the transition to AI and just literally killing their own business model because of fear that everybody's just going to go to AI anyways. So we might as well provide it on the search engine. Not sure where that business model is actually going to go. Fiverr's solution to AI replacing freelancers is to help the freelancer train the AI that replaces them. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I genuinely cannot decide if this is the most ruthless thing a platform has ever done or the most honest. That's true, right? It's certainly the most on brand for 2026. We can't stop this from happening to you, but we can make sure you're the one holding the shovel. That's either empowerment or a very specific kind of betrayal. I'll leave that with you to decide. All right, so here's a part of the story that the doom framing misses entirely. You know, there's always both sides of the story, and that is what we're trying to do with this channel, is not just be a doom and gloom like the sky is falling and you're screwed, but it's like wherever something gets taken away, there's always opportunity if you know where to look. So here's the part of the story that doom framing misses entirely. AI-related gig postings on major platforms are up 300% year on year. Prompt engineering postings up 240%. AI editing and output review up 180%. The freelancers who moved into these adjacent categories in 2024 and early 2025 are now, on average, earning 40 to 60% more per hour than they made before AI arrived. There is also a rebound signal worth naming. In late 2025 and into 2026, a measurable wave of client inbound is explicitly requesting human written content. Okay, I get that last year at the beginning because it was still a little bit, but it's getting better and better. Genuine subject matter expertise and work that cannot be AI generated, at least then, at the time. Finance writers are averaging $73,000 a year. Fintech specialists are charging 95 cents a word. White paper writers are earning $6,000 a month or more. Medical writers are at $60 to $150 an hour. The market did not collapse, it bifurcated. The floor dropped out of the commodity tier and the ceiling of the expert tier went up. These are now two different markets operating under the same brand name. All right, so this is true, but what you have to understand is you just go back 1 year where this data is taken from, and AI's ability to write wasn't as good as it is now. And it wasn't as amazing as it is now. So all these knowledge-based jobs will get taken away. It's just what happens is as it moves into improving it, everything gets squeezed into one side, which is where everybody is moving, which is that area where humans still kind of have an edge. Well, that's all going to go away in 6 months to 12 months. And what they're saying here really is, it's not really so much what's going away is the AI, it's just the people that know how to prompt and know how to instruct the AI to do what they want. But what we're learning is, it used to be like, oh, you should get in, AI's here, you need to learn how to prompt, get into prompt engineering. But what's happening is, as we move forward, what we're learning is AI actually builds better prompts than humans. So all you have to be able to do now is, you don't even have to prompt, you just have to express to AI what it is that you're trying to do. And you can literally just throw a word sandwich at AI and just keep throwing this long, drawn out monologuing word sandwich, and it's getting better at figuring out what it is that you actually want. So that's what I do sometimes. I'm like, I don't really know how to say what I want. I don't know how to write this prompt. I'm just going to monologue to AI and then just say, can you, I'm trying to do this, but first try to pull out of me what it is that I'm trying to do. And then it'll literally start to summarize and give me ideas and go, and then I'll be, yeah, that's what I wanted. Exactly. Can you write a prompt for it? No problem. So that's really where it's heading, is people, once they realize that it's not about writing these fancy prompts and, so once again, everybody's getting squeezed to one end, which is certain things humans still could do, the AI couldn't. And then it's like AI operators because people are lazy. And that's the other thing is a lot of businesses and people, they don't even want to tackle it. They've spent the last 20 years being told, oh, you should learn how to use Instagram. You should learn how to use Facebook advertising. You should learn how to do search and optimization. So people have kind of grown to this point to where they're just like, I don't want to learn anymore. I don't want to learn any more apps and software platforms. I'm tired of it. It's overwhelming. Just like, let me pay somebody to just do it for me. But what they don't realize is AI is flipping the script, and it's now moving towards just taking your expertise and letting you just talk with it. And it's going to do all the heavy lifting. So people with life experience are going to have an edge over the so-called, young kids that were born with computers and tablets and smartphones in their hand that, learn how to code before they learn how to, write. That's not going to be the same case, and that's where we're going. A lot of people don't see that. I see that. Keep following this channel and you'll be on top of this. Because even though I'm in my 50s, I've been trying to keep up with all this stuff ever since it began. All right, so let's talk about, some ideas of, actionable things that you can actually do to prepare and battle this because, all in all, after all, what are we trying to do? We're just trying to find a way to have a job, to make money, and to just be able to, make a little extra money, go on vacation, feed our families, and feel some form of security, or at least feel like we have a direction in how to kind of evolve with security, if that makes any sense. So 3 moves. Whether you're a freelancer, a solopreneur who hires them, or someone watching from the edges, first, audit what you sell against what AI can now replicate. Be honest. If what you produce is primarily output, a deliverable a client could now get cheaper from a tool, you're in the wrong tier, and the timeline on that getting worse is very short. The audit is uncomfortable. It is also the most useful thing you can do in the next 30 minutes, right? Just audit yourself. Really, really ask yourself. And if you want to audit yourself, just say what I just said to ChatGPT and say, please audit me. And then word sandwich it, and it'll figure it out for you. Second, move toward the work that AI generates but cannot validate. Prompt engineering and AI editing are real, growing, well-paid skills, but so is being the person who knows whether the AI output is actually right, because you have the domain expertise to evaluate it. That is not a commodity skill. It is increasingly rare and specific, valuable. All right, third, if you hire freelancers, update your model. The $40 blog post is a false economy in both directions now. AI does it cheaper and better, and the human doing it for 40 cannot sustain themselves doing it. The work worth paying a human for in 2026 is the work where their specific expertise, judgment, or relationship with your business produces nothing AI cannot. Know what that is before you post the next brief. So, yeah, it's not that difficult. Right now, AI is a little clunky because it's just like this chat box model, and they keep adding new things, and a lot of people just don't know what to do. It's very simple, that stuff that you can do. Like, you can create these projects in ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude where it'll create a file, and then you can save certain chats and you can organize certain chats. So whatever it is you're trying to work on, you can kind of keep things organized there, and then you can just go to those chats. And that's the thing. That's the way it works right now, because it's starting to change. But for a while, it was like AI didn't know what was going on in the other chat, and you couldn't just fire up AI and start talking about something that you were working on 2 weeks ago. It had no idea. It was like 50. What was it? 10-second Tom from 50 First New Dates, where it's like this brilliant, smart person that has zero memory of anything. So memory and common sense are the 2 areas that I think we're going to see really evolve over the next 6 to 12 months. Because if you solve that problem and you give AI a better memory than humans, long-term memory, and you give it at least a sense of common sense that's equal to a human, boom, you got AGI. You got something amazing, something that will feel like you can have a team of people that are just amazing, right? They're smarter than like 99% of most people. Yeah, I could go on and on this, but I don't want to go too long because I've already been monologuing about this kind of stuff. This is something that I've been involved with for so long, and it's something that's dear to my heart because like I said, I've hired and had teams for the Philippines. I got to know them. They worked. I mean, I've had people work with me for over 5 years, and I had to let a lot of them go just because I just kept looking at AI and I kept going like, if I kept saying, and I warned them for years. I said, you guys need to become the best at AI. I said, if you can learn to use AI better than anybody, and I said this 2 years ago, you'll always have a job. But the mentality of being a worker in the way they work, it's very difficult to change because it's still this, I want to take my time, do things right. I want to have a schedule, and I want to kind of work systematic through this and this and that. Whereas with AI, it's kind of like just get stuff done as quick as fast, be flexible, be agile. And that's kind of what people need and want in today's business. The gig economy isn't over, but the version of where you could build a stable income on commodity output. The $50 transcription, the $40 blog post, the $30 data entry job. That version is gone. What's left is more valuable and harder to get to, which means the people who get there first have a real advantage. All right, guys, subscribe. Let's keep at this. I hope you guys find some value. This is a new channel. I started this channel more about like my fitness and anti-aging, things because I'm really into it and I practice a lot of this stuff. But I just didn't want to keep posting that kind of content because I just kind of got, I don't know, it was just a lot of work going and filming all these things that I would do, and it didn't seem like people even really cared, even though it was fun to do, but it was like unsustainable, and I really like talking about this kind of stuff. I'll still hit on that kind of stuff occasionally, but basically, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I kind of started this project this way. So let's see where we go. Until the next video, let's get it.